Have you ever walked in on your husband, wife, boyfriend, or girlfriend having sex with someone else? What did you see? What happened? My fiancée dragged me to a jewelry store to pick out possible wedding rings. She took off for her place later that night because she had to work brunch the next day. She lived a little over an hour away. I took the next day off of work and decided to surprise my fiancée by showing up at her place at about 8:30 in the morning. I walked in on my fiancée laying naked, spread eagle, on the bed. She was masturbating enthusiastically while a 56-year-old dude was arched over her ducking her face. Evidently she had brought him home from the bar the night before. She was 26 at the time. When I said, "What the duck's going on here?" her response was, "Oops, busted." Long pause. How long have you been standing there? This happened to me. I was dating a girl, but she didn't want to make it official yet, my first warning sign, and tell people we were dating, so I kept it on the down low. Then I threw a party at my house, and at some point, one of my friends, we'll call him Stu, and her came out of the bathroom together. My first thought was, what the hell were they in there for? I was pretty drunk and thought nothing of it. Then they went outside together to have a smoke. About 5 minutes later I looked out the window and they were gone. I went out onto my deck and saw her ass bouncing in his car window. I called one of my friends, we'll call him Norris, over. It was funny at the time, and we ran down to the car laughing. Norris opened the door and sat down on the seat beside them while this girl was still on top of Stu. He sat there and had a big discussion as to why this was wrong. Stu had no idea we were dating. Anyways, I didn't ever get mad at my friend because he didn't know in the first place. And I forgave the girl after a month or so, dated for about 6 more months, then realized I was retarded and left her for pretty obvious reasons. But back to the party. After the talk with Norris, she left with Stu because she was ashamed. Her car was still at my house, so Norris took her keys out of my room because I went and passed out in bed. He took her brand new car, a 2010 Kia Forte Coupe LOL, which had like 7,000 km on it, and joyrode it all over town, scratching the car's undercarriage and trashing the lights on it, etc. He didn't have a license either. He ditched the car halfway across the city and called a friend for a ride back to my place. I woke up in the morning and her car was gone. 2 weeks later, I'm giving a statement to the police, and a year after that, about 2 months ago, longest time for the cops to get this figured out, Norris was jailed for DUI and Grand Theft Auto for 30 days. There was over $10,000 of damages done to the car. Norris just got out of jail about 3 weeks ago. So back during February of my freshman year of college, I had been dating a girl for a couple of months when out of the blue she came over and started crying and said, "I don't think we should see each other anymore. I am afraid that I am going to hurt you if we let this go on much longer, because I like you too much, but I am not ready to be in a relationship during my freshman year." I said, "Okay, that sucks, but I understand." I liked her a lot, and while her explanation was not what I expected to hear, I respected it, and that was that. This was the Tuesday before Valentine's Day, which was on Friday of that week. On Wednesday, her roommate with the XGF crying in the background calls me up and says, she made a terrible mistake. She is head over heels for you and is just sick with the thought that she might lose you. Will you please give her another chance? We had seemed to have a pretty good thing going, so I said sure. I'll meet her at a mutual friend's apartment on Friday for the day party. She kept saying thank you and screaming in the background. I know now how stupid I was, but I was a horny freshman. Friday comes around, I meet up with her at the party and things seem to be going great for about 2 hours. I went to get us a couple of drinks from the kitchen, and when I come back she is nowhere to be found. I think nothing of it and hang out for about 30 minutes more. When my friend and I decided to leave, I go to find her to tell her we were going to leave and to see if she wanted to join us. Her friend directed me upstairs to where she had left her purse, so I headed upstairs. When I get upstairs at the apartment, I see all of the doors open except one, my friend's room, where all of the purses and jackets were. I knocked on the door, thinking that he might be in there taking a nap or hooking up with a girl. When the door opens, a dude random from the party is standing there, buck naked, and says, "What's up?" I look past him and see my ex-girlfriend lying spread eagle on the bed. I look at her and calmly say, "Duck you, we're done, 3 years later, I ran into her at another party at which she spent the entire night telling anyone who would listen how I was the best thing that ever happened to her and that cheating on me was the stupidest thing she had ever done, yada yada yada. It was just sort of a mind-duck when someone begs you to give them a chance and then pulls that shit 2 days later. Now I am happily married to a mutual friend of ours. Okay, I'll bite. On Valentine's Day a few years ago, my girlfriend and I had been very busy and we were broke, so we decided to boycott the day. I had been with her on and off for 9 years, so it wasn't a big deal. We decided to just go to my buddy's house and get shit-faced. Well, we got properly drunk for a few hours with a bunch of close friends, and for some reason I noticed she was missing. I went outside to see if she was smoking, and she was in the car making out with one of my friends. I am not proud of this. I went to her door, opened it and whipped her out like a rag doll. She rolled around on the pavement and told me she was going to call the police. I then went around to his door and while he was trying to exit pushed him back and then went to town. I just wailed away on his face till finally another one of my friends came out and pulled me off him. As I was being detained, he tried to get out of the car and I promptly kicked him in the teeth since my hands were being held behind me. I think she tried to stop me too and I pushed her over. Again, I am not proud of it, but I wasn't really thinking, and I was not trying to hurt her. I was simply trying to hurt him and would not let anyone stop me from getting that satisfaction. She swore up and down that nothing happened. To this day he still won't look me in the eye if I see him anywhere. That slut is long gone, and it turns out this was not her first offense. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up in a picturesque family, and went to college to study finance. Shortly after I graduated college, I married my college sweetheart, who had gone to school to get her Mrs. degree. I quickly got into banking, and found that I had a knack for it. Quickly rising through the ranks, my wife and I became members of local country clubs. Through the gossip, I found out that my wife had been having an affair with another rich prick she met at the country club. I confronted her about it. It was very bitter. She said she was glad I knew, that she hated all the sneaking around. She said she wanted a divorce in Reno in no uncertain terms. I told her I would not grant one. According to the court transcript, I said I'll see you in hell before I see you in Reno, at least according to my neighbor's testimony. I don't really remember. I was upset. After this, she packed a bag, and went to stay with her lover. I went to a few bars, got trashed, and in my drunker stupor, went to her lover's house to confront them. They weren't there, so I parked my car in the turnout and waited. I wasn't sure of my intention. I was drunk and confused. I think I mostly wanted to scare them. I had a gun with me, .38 revolver. By the time they came home, I was sobering up. I realized she wasn't worth it, and decided to let her have her quickie divorce. I got back in my car, and drove home to sleep it off. Along the way, I tossed my gun into a river. The next day, apparently, his cleaning lady showed up to find him and my wife riddled with .38 caliber bullets. I got pinned with the crime I didn't commit based off purely circumstantial evidence. The worst part was, a revolver holds 6 rounds, not 8, and each had 4 rounds in them. The DA speculated that I had emptied the revolver, and then stopped to reload, and thus was able to convince the jury and judge to give me 2 life sentences, back to back, with no parole. While at university, I dated a hot redhead with a bit of a nympho streak in her. While I love ginger women, this one was damaged goods. Putting it nicely, we dated for nearly 2 years, with a 4-month hiatus in the middle, due to her episodes of crazy becoming more destructive and public. After I caught her using my car to meet another guy for sex, I dropped her like a hot stone. Several days later, she decided that she wanted me back, badly. She came up with elaborate plans to win me back, all of which failed. Her last-ditch effort was to attempt to make me jealous. Anyway, I was called to her floor 24th floor dorm tower by a mutual friend. As soon as I exited the lift, I heard the unmistakable sounds of sex, ridiculously uninhibited, exhibitionist sex. She was ducking 3 campus police officers right in her front door with the blocked open. I couldn't help but laugh. As I returned to the lift, still laughing, the sounds of sex stopped and I heard her say, "Thanks. That has to work." From what I understand, The ducking resumed and lasted for over 2 hours. Videotapes were made and the 3 campus police officers were discharged from their university. For 3 weeks after that night, she continued to win me back. Don't get me wrong, the sex with her was fantastic. But I now live by the don't stick your dick in crazy rule. Too long didn't he read? Redhead ex-girlfriend tried to win me back by making me jealous. Her attempt involved loudly ducking 3 campus cops in perfect view of her open front door. She ducked 3 guys at once. Didn't win me back. What the hell is wrong with people? I had a good friend who walked in on his GF screwing another guy. He threw a TV at the wall, his TV, and slapped her. She called the cops, and the next thing you know he was guilty of domestic violence. He was a very passive guy prior to the incident. He was forced to attend anger management classes. These classes had the exact opposite effect they were supposed to. I think he ended up sympathizing with violent people and rationalizing their point of view. As a result of his tribulations, he ended up finding God. He would get upset at me when I poked fun at religion, where before he was cool with my sense of humor. Although other things transpired, I felt that one event really changed him, and ultimately ruined our friendship. There is no moral to this tale, just a sad story. This one's not so dramatic as the others, since I never actually walked in. She claimed lesbianism, but that changed to bisexuality after we met. I was the first guy she'd ever been with. She still wanted to see other girls, which I told her was okay as long as I got to see other girls to win. Fast forward a year later, we've both stopped seeing other people as much. But then a high school male friend of hers moves to Boston and she tells me she wants to date him. I say okay, as long as I can date your roommate's second win. It works out. I am still her main man and I am more revenge ducking her roommate while she's out dating the other dude. Fast forward 9 months from that, and it's clear she wants to date that other guy more seriously than me, which is just fine by me. However, one day we're screwing at her place when the other guy calls. She answers mid-duck and talks to him for a minute. Hangs up, says could you hurry up and finish? Sam wants to come over, so I did. I finished on her face, which she hated. Without a word left the apartment and never said a word to her again. That was 4 years ago. She's engaged to a gay man now, and I am still the longest relationship she ever had. I don't know what it was that pissed me off about her telling me to nut and run, but that closed that chapter of my life. I talked to the guy she ended up dating after me recently and he said he had no idea about all the cheating she was doing on him. She's now an ex, but I went to my girlfriend's apartment and when she didn't answer the door I knocked on the window, and I heard a man's voice. I knew it was her ex in her bed. Then she yelled at me to go away, and her psycho girl neighbor upstairs came out to yell at me. Then my ex called the police on me for being there. Sad part one, the night before we went out together, had a great time, and she got pulled over and taken to jail for drinking and driving. In the morning I picked her up from jail, took her back to my place, then took her home to get cleaned up. She had already been caught cheating once before, and she swore she wasn't going back to that guy, but she did and I caught her again. Sad part 2, she's still my ex, but I have a kid with her now. Our son is about to turn 3. She didn't let me see him at all for the first year of his life and got the guy she cheated with to sign the birth certificate. I don't have to pay child support, but I have no parental rights. Moral again, don't stick your dick in crazy. I was living with my ex in DC, very expensively, working lots of hours to make ends meet after she lost her job. So, while she was supposed to be job hunting, she was carrying on a cyber affair with a real winner in New York. By winner, this guy was a forever alone type living in his mother's basement. His dream job, writing erotic vampire fiction. I shit you not, I can't make this stuff up. So, I caught her at that, damn near left her, but due to living cost considerations, the fact that I loved her, and etc., I forgave her on the grounds this was her one duck up, and if I ever even felt like she wasn't being 100% faithful I was gone. Fast forward 8 months. Things have been going great. I've been working long hours again, this time saving cash for her engagement ring. My boss, being the awesome kick-ass fella he is, realized this and sent me home early one night because I looked like hell and wasn't feeling well. Cue me walking into my apartment at 11:00, that stank of sweaty, nasty ass. Her winner from New York was in my bed with her, and he stank my apartment up with his funk. I am also a CCW holder and we lived in a rough neighborhood. I was armed and crimes of passion in Virginia. I'd have been out of jail in a year. Instead, I told them they had 5 minutes to be gone, turned on my heel ignoring her pleas and drove around the block. 5 minutes later I returned, opened all the doors and windows to air out his funk and started packing my shit. Was moved into a temporary living arrangement by 10 a.m. the next day. Name was off the lease. Water and power paid through the end of the month, 4 days away, then turned off. Her cell reported stolen, and I had an interview 2,200 miles away. Oh, I also left her a picture of what was to be her engagement ring with a simple note: "You ducked that one up, didn't ya?" Worst part of all, I can't explain it, this guy was a troll, smelled awful, and while I may not be porn star endowed, this guy, definition of micropenis, I am honestly not sure how penetration could have occurred. It's going to buried anyway, but here's mine. When I was 20 I walked in on my fiancée and her boss. I saw red. All those stories about red clouds and the rest of the vision going all black and white, completely true. Full rage mode. The guy then decided to face me, but I told him that he had only one single chance to leave the apartment through the door and he should take that offer. I threw the champagne bottle, a gift for our engagement they had opened, into the TV and she decided to walk around naked in the glass. She then called the police, who turned up 10 minutes later and helped me take my belongings into my car. Never heard a single word from her again. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.